Hello, everybody. Welcome to the webinar with LumenData and Performance Improvement Partners. And we are looking forward to enlightening you all and hopefully give you some insights about the new buzzword, which is Gen AI, but very focused on how it is applicable in the private equity and the portfolio companies that you might be working in or you might be considering or discussing. My name is Akash Desai, and I lead the client success and the client engagement teams here at LumenData. And we are very happy to discuss this topic. I will let Andrew and Jason introduce themselves and continue to discuss how we at LumenData and Performance Improvement Partners are really focusing on bringing the value for the private equity firms, whether it be for your portfolio company, which could be a variety of industries, but also at the fund level. How can we, as an organization, support you with the due diligence, with your scouting of companies, and very, very tangible outcomes we can drive at the portfolio companies using data and Gen AI going forward. I will transfer it back to Andrew.
Hi, yes, my name is Andrew Kreider. I'm the Director of Analytics here at LumenData. I'm joined by Jason Florer, who's a Senior Director of Transformation at PI Partners. What we're going to do is we're going to quickly go into our agenda and get the webinar kicked off. So our agenda, we're going to cover a number of basic things. We're going to do what do portfolio companies actually need when looking at data and analytics, and especially in generative AI. And then we're going to dive into 3 different demos. One focused off of building off of the knowledge that you already have. The second one is personalizing your customer's experience. And then the third one is increasing your customer's worth. And we're going to end off with some questions. So if you have any questions or comments, please place them in the chat, and our moderator will cover them at the end of the session. Before I turn it over to Jason, I want to just quickly go over who we are here at LumenData. As Akash mentioned, we are very focused on helping you get the maximum amount of your data. We're founded in 2008. We do cloud modernization, data analytics and engineering, and data strategy and business value assessments. We have over 200 technical consultants located in all time zones across the world. And one of the greatest things that we're proud of is that our teams average 15 years of experience overall. We have a lot of experienced consultants that sit in a lot of different places. And while we're headquartered in Santa Clara, our primary delivery location is in Bangalore. And so with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Jason.
Thanks, Andrew. So PIP, or Performance Improvement Partners, is over 20 years we've been serving private equity exclusively. So we work in the middle market and lower middle market of private equity. We've got approximately 250 private equity customers, and we've done an assortment of business across technology, due diligence, carve-outs and integrations, certainly tech strategy and advisory, and even implementations. Next, as I move to the next slide, I want to tee up the contextualization of generative AI and really all of data and analytics for our typical clients, which again are in that middle market and lower middle market of private equity ownership. The PortCos typically have not done a significant amount of investment in data. And so one of the things we really wanted to highlight as we're talking through this topic is, why should you care? Certainly you should care because data is more prevalent today than it's ever been. But there are four shifts in technology, and this was published by McKinsey, this research that makes up this slide. But McKinsey made the argument that data is the most attractive area of investment for businesses today. And I think it's certainly more attractive at the lower middle market level because of these four things. First, enhanced data management efficiency is really about the challenges that small companies have in doing all the technical things that would allow them to get value out of their data. Today, there are better technologies for managing and enhancing the efficiency and effectiveness of their data systems. Some examples of that would be Snowflake and many other tools in the market that do more than they used to do, I'll say, in our parents' data and AI space, if you will. Generative AI is really the second big trend that is transforming the way data and value can be created. And so we will show you some examples of how generative AI really can take a simple use case or a simple data set and really create value for you without having to boil the ocean, if you will. The third access that really enhances value creation is real world data. So there's so much data and so many data sets that can be either purchased or even literally pulled off the internet that in your specific industry would actually be valuable to know and to integrate into your analytics engine, if you will, to start to draw better conclusions and even predict next best action in your business. And then finally, this has really become a scaling mechanism, the idea of being able to reuse what you design for one data and analytics purpose, perhaps for one generative AI use case. Data sets that really are called data products in the context of internal IT to the business. These data products can be greatly reused. And so you build it for one purpose, but maybe multiple different parts of the company can get value out of a data set. So these are four really exciting, scalable, and powerful technology changes that have happened in just the recent couple of years that you can take advantage of along this journey towards advanced analytics. So where are you at today? So and how would you start this journey? So as you might imagine, there's many steps of maturity along this curve. From the very bottom where, and I'm sure most of my clients actually would say this is their primary BI tool, it's called Excel, or maybe Google Sheets. Using a spreadsheet to analyze your company data is the building block that everything else is sort of built on, but you definitely don't want to stay there. As you can see, going up this building block chart, things become more sophisticated. The questions become more valuable when they're answered. From what happened to what might happen, from why did it happen to what can I do about it, or maybe even what's my next best move. And then all the way at the top, as you can see, AI solutions tend to really address the complexities of can I detect a pattern and then take definite action that shifts it in my favor. So we will show you some examples of that. But I really challenge you and your PortCos to ask this question of yourself. Where are we and how could we improve? Not for the sake of improving, but for the sake of business outcomes. So another data source in our analysis of this topic was Gartner. Everyone knows Gartner. Gartner has some specific points of view on this, and what they said in this research here is that generative AI is only useful in some cases, which is absolutely true. Generative AI is not a catch-all solution. It's not a magic robot that does everything for you. There are specific use cases that it does really well, and some things that it really doesn't do well. So a few of the highlights of what it does do well include content marketing, and you can sort of read these on the left if you can see it on your screen, but generating marketing material, research and content curation, even email creation and direct marketing. We've seen Gen AI be a great tool for even during customer interactions where they expect a human might have answered, but it's actually AI. On the right, when Gen AI is or isn't effective, really the highlight there is in prediction and forecasting. Generative AI isn't really the answer for that, or decision intelligence, but there are other alternatives for that are better. Machine learning, other forms of AI actually are the right answer for those use cases. So this isn't just about only doing Gen AI, but we are trying to contextualize why Gen AI is such a buzzword, and why and how you could get value from it. So my last quick point here as I hand it off to Andrew is that we're going to show you, I think it's 3 demonstrations today, and they actually cover the top 7 of these items that Gartner says Gen AI works well for. So with that, let me hand it back off to Andrew, who's going to illustrate some of this to you.
Great. Thank you, Jason. So let's talk about some typical generative AI applications that we're seeing at our clients right now. They cover a wide gamut, but we're going to focus on these 3 because these are the 3 that I'd like to demonstrate for you today. The first one is semantic search and proposal augmentation. A lot of time is spent by our clients just trying to find the answers that they need to write proposals, to answer questions from their stakeholders, and all of that. Large language models excel in summarizing vast amount of data into consumable content. This is going to reduce a lot of your time spent on research and writing that first item. As someone who produces a lot of content, often the biggest challenge for producing content is a blank page. Large language models are great to kind of give you a first draft or an outline based off of data that you have, often known as retrieval-augmented generation, to really give you that first pass so that you can continue to refine it and add value quickly. The second one is call center support. So whether these are internal or external support services, this again allows you to summarize a lot of information that might be hard to find, surface that information, and more importantly, automate some of the typical problems that come out of customer support, follow-up, providing documentation to the client. All of that sort of thing can be really augmented by discovering within your data set and building and summarizing emails, phone calls, audio recordings, however you want to do that. And then the first one is we're going to kind of couple with a recommendation engine, which is another common AI technique to understand about how to interface with your customers through kind of a customer 360 view. What this really allows you to do is to group your customers through data science, profiling, clustering, all of those kind of fun data science items, and then augment that information and help dictate what information to show it to you. So for example, our demo later today is going to show you how to build a sample itinerary for a ski trip, how to create a custom email message, and a custom chat message as well. And then finally, all of those things kind of lead us into our next slide where, as you might have heard me mention, there are a lot of different things that you need to do that are not necessarily generative AI. So as Jason mentioned, content generation, chatbots, knowledge discovery, large language models do really, really well. However, if you're going to do kind of simulations or create optimization opportunities in your space, they may not be the best thing to do. So what we want to do instead is we want to focus the AI technique that makes the most sense in how we're doing things. And so when we go to our next slide, where does LumenData see where we can add the most value to these kinds of projects? The first one, as we mentioned, we have a lot of data engineers who have 15 years plus of experience. And most of what we find is that the important thing is prep work. This is getting the data where it needs to be and all of that. Then comes kind of the training and building of the model, doing some data cleaning and doing some external augmentation. About 90% of your effort is making sure that the data that you have ready to go is good to go for your models. Because while it is true that in all sorts of ways, garbage in and garbage out is horrible for analytics, for large language model work, it is especially important. This is where we can reduce hallucinations, where we can improve the performance and accuracy, as well as the precision of your large language model outputs. And then the last 10% of this is kind of the iteration and implementation, right? Getting user input, seeing where we can utilize the large language model outputs, do a number of analysis as well, which feeds back into the model and kind of gets in. So that's all kind of what we do and kind of how we approach these projects. Let's see some actual things in action. So for the first project, the first demo that we're going to show is we're going to show how you can use your knowledge. So a report by IDC highlights that the average knowledge worker, this is anybody who finds, consolidates, and presents information in some way, spends about 2.5 hours per day, or about 30% of the workday, just searching for information, article titling, categorization, updating, and doing all the work that is around knowledge work. By implementing a large language model and using the technique called a retrieval-augmented generation, you can enhance that LLM by retrieving the external documents already by simply indexing them and making them available to the large language model to search, generating those replies, and helping your knowledge workers leverage the information that's already there but may be hard to find. This also reduces the time and complexity of needed to categorize, organize, tag documents, because all of this will be discovered during the retrieval augmented generation purpose to find you the information that you need. So let's talk about a quick demo, and I'm going to share my screen real quick, and I'm going to show you actually one of the things that we have done for our internal use, right? And so what this screen is here is we're using Databricks for this particular implementation, which has great ability to hold structured and unstructured data, and then also various other item elements. So for example, my team keeps up to date a list of all of our white papers, blog articles, brochures that we have for our clients, all of that kind of stuff in this one central location. And then also, we also have some videos of our webinars and of our demonstrations as well. All of these are hosted in our Databricks environment. And then when we do is that we perform what's called tokenization and embedding of those documents. Essentially, what's that doing is using a large language model to look at a chunk of text and place it within a three-dimensional space so that it can draw correlations and relations to other versions of the documents that have the exact same content. This allows the large language model to find those individual elements when you enter into a natural language search, but also can draw inferences of documents that may not have always been top of mind when you're looking at things. So think Databricks and Snowflake are closely related, But if I'm looking at Databricks, I may just want to look at the Databricks cluster. If I want to use Streamlit, that's kind of related to Snowflake. And so I might group Streamlit and Snowflake together in my query so that when I'm returning my response, I get that information. So as I go through all of this, the final thing that is important is that I'm going to show you the chatbot that we use to interface with this in just a minute. But that chatbot gets a system prompt, an overriding order of how it should handle things. And for this, you just an assistant for LumenData company users, answering questions related to our experience. And you're going to pull back information from where we provided information for you so that you can go ahead and look at it. That's what we're telling the large language model. And so when we go talk to Lumi, right, when I ask for the technical capabilities of LumenData in both Databricks and Snowflake, here's a short little list, and here are the links to the various documents as well. And so when I'm providing an answer, either in a customer support or on my website, I can provide this information and links for them to find more information. I can also ask it for different experiences that it might look for, and it does a little bit of Google searching here as well, which is pretty interesting. And so if I say, tell me about LumenData and AI. It'll think for just a minute, and here you go. It was provide, here's a pretty basic argument here, and then artificial intelligence to enhance data management and analytics solutions. However, we haven't loaded any of our most recent data here as well. And so what that allows us to do is to ask us for more information. And so it's important when you're doing these demos that when we load this video up to it, the chatbot will be able to access the information that I'm talking about right now and provide an answer to that question. And so when we talk about the 10% of iteration from that previous slide, this is really the critical part, right? Constantly updating the knowledge base, constantly refining the query that is being used allows the chatbot, the RAG-bot, to continuously get better time over time over time. So now let's talk a little bit about what our next demo is here, which is, that can be used internally or externally. So let's talk a little bit about getting your personalized customer experience into that. So what we're going to do here is about 26% of marketers, according to a market survey report, of every dollar they spent on personalization saw 3 to 5 ROI, 300 to 500%. 9% of these marketers said that every dollar returned 20 or more dollars. And so the ability to personalize our demo and provide a really clean user feedback loop that's based on who they are can really return a great amount of money when you're doing marketing and outreach and sales. According to the same survey, research has shown that personalization can reduce acquisition costs by as much as 50%, lift revenues by 5 or 15%, and increase the efficiency of marketing spend by 10 to 30%. I was talking to a client very recently, and they've spent a very large amount of money on Google Ads. Spent a lot of time improving SEO and all of that. And they have a large marketing list. And so what we were talking about was, what information do we have on those email addresses that we might be able to provide more detailed information to, and thus increase the efficiency of their marketing instead of reaching out blindly to the universe and hoping that the Google search ads would work. This would allow them to increase value of their customers and build off of that. So one common way of looking at is to provide a chatbot to the user, but we're going to kind of talk about this chatbot with a slight twist. Instead of the chatbot presenting the information and validating the information without human input, what we're actually going to do is we're going to do an intake process. with our customers that's personalized, with a chatbot that has a personality and is kind of building information. And then using that information, we're going to build a personalized insurance quote for that user based on the factors that they gave us. And we're going to do that very quickly. So let's just shift back over to Databricks real quick. If I can find my window, here we go. And so let's talk a little bit about what our insurance bot is going to do. So our insurance bot is going to have three different sources. The first one is the user input that I'll show you in just a minute. The second one is information that we have on insurance rate inside of our fictitious company. And the third one is going to be Google search results. That's going to be returning information on the area that our insurer is looking to move into and get an insurance quote on. And so we source this information from a number of different sources, but finding all three of those go into our data preparation, data engineering category. And so what we're going to do is we are going to run our little chatbot here. And we're going to say, hello, I would like an insurance quote. And give it just a minute to respond to us. And it answers with us. And let's start off with the most basic information. Let's go ask for a insurance quote for this zip code. And then we'll get some other information as well. So how many bedrooms do you have? So I have 2 bedrooms. And because I'm not sure if I like this area or not, I'm going to just rent it, right? And then what happens is that this information then is gathered from it and kicks off another process. And so this process right here is going to go get all of the information on the back end, because we don't want to necessarily push this information directly to our users, because we want to validate it through an insurance agent that all the information kind of makes sense. And so we do a lot of different things, like getting the value of houses in that area, setting a married status from the user, determine whether they're owner or rented, and then calculate kind of the lower, upper, and other ownership levels. And then with that information, we're going to send off another query, and this is really where the large language model takes place, is that it's going to take all the information that it has, Google results, the prices of everything, the insurance numbers, all of that kind of stuff. And it's going to summarize all of it into a personalized quote for that individual user. And then instead of directly sending that to the user, what we're then going to do is we are going to bring up just a very simple email. And we're going to say, this is the quote that we want to send to X user. And so with the value of this house of $14,000, your insurance quote comes to $1,300, right? It takes into account a number of different factors, which is a high crime rate. And then what it also looks like in other alternate zip codes. So if they're looking at rate comparisons or things like that, and the current ownership of the status of you owning the house, then we can do that as well. So our renter is going to be this, whether you're going to be an owner is going to be that. And all of this gives you an idea of what goes into the quote that we did. Now, this is very simply a very simple insurance quote that we did as a test for one of our clients. But what we can also do is we can change the prompt. We can change the port of information in to build whatever kind of prompt we want. And then if we need to simplify it and send another chain, we can do that as well. That's the great thing about this process, is that once you get the data right into your system, you can use it in however you really want to do. So with that being said, let us move into our final demo, final use case here, which is increasing your customer's worth, right? As we all know, and as we discussed previously, 71% of consumers feel frustrated when a shopping experience is impersonal. 70% of millennials are frustrated with brands sending them irrelevant emails. And 91% of consumers say they are most likely to shop with brands that provide offers or recommendations that are relevant to them. And because we want to increase our repeat customers, right? When we get customers to repeat with us, their average order usually increases because they trust us more. 5% in retention can result in almost doubling your increase in project. And according to a Gallup study, satisfied customers are 23% more likely to buy again than others. So combining these two sets of facts, what we want to do is we want to create personalized experiences for our current and future customers, make them recommendations that make sense to them, right? And then automate that process as much as humanly possible. So let's talk a little bit about our recommendation engine example might look like. Here we go. So when we talk about a recommendation engine, two very important things are important. The first one is for a user is to determine who are similar users within their group and what their buying, purchasing, and viewing habits are. And then based off of what they've selected in their cart or what you want to push or whatever, you want to make recommendations that meet that specific user's needs. And then what we also want to do is we might want to do a number of different things to kind of put our thumb on our scale. So maybe we have things that are going out of stock that we want to sell, or maybe we have things that have a high profit margin that we want to sell that makes sense to that user. And so what this demo does is it takes three different recommendation types. The first one is recommended for that user upon their buying history compared to everybody else. The second one is within the group that they sit in, whether that's based off of demographics, whether that's based on salary, whether that's based on whatever. We're going to take the 5 most common items in that. And then we're going to put our thumb on the scale. And in this case, the items that generate us the most revenue, right? And we're going to create a subset of recommendations based on all that information. And then we're going to do a second recommendation pass on that to pull 5 items for that specific user. And so this is not something really that we want to pass via a chatbot, right? What we want to do is we want to do this analysis fairly regular on our customers when we're creating our marketing emails, or perhaps when a call center representative calls in and is talking to a customer. And so from here, we can just pick a very simple customer ID that creates a little web app that can sit on the customer support thing, and they can recommend different items based off of those factors. And then when a new person comes in, a new item comes up, right? Now, one of the other things that we can do with this is actually create content based off of this information. And so if what we do then instead is we take the very similar user, we can do a number of content items as well. So maybe when we're talking about the item, the customer service rep should refer to it with personalized language about that item. So for the floral bathroom set, they can use keywords like transforming your bathroom into a serene sanctuary with a stunning floral design, adding beauty and relaxation to your daily routine, to give your customer services a little more flavor of things that might work with that particular customer as well. And then also automating an email message as well, talking about all 5 of the things in their recommended list and how they can actually build a narrative and a story around that. The next step, which is coming much sooner than we are anticipating, I think, is creating a short video that can be sent to our customers, or a short voicemail that can be sent to our customers along these same lines. And speaking of that, creating social media posts. So for example, something to give to our marketers, an Instagram story series based off of one of those items, right? Including images, voiceovers, text, or however we want to write the prompt to generate that information, really allows us to provide, again, kind of non a blank page to our marketers, but with messages that we know can thrive. And as we get feedback on all three of those items, whether it be increased clicks or increased sales, we can push it back. And just to show that we're not just a Databricks shop, I also want to show something very similar in our Snowflake instance. This data set is a very simple snow summit store that sells skiing equipment. We did a very similar exercise. We made a recommendation engine. We did all this sort of thing to get to the point of to follow up with the customers who hadn't bought an item, and based off of their demographic information, what the customer service rep should say to overcome any objections that they might have. So for example, they didn't buy this lift ticket for an adult reason, right? Here's everything that goes into an adult ski lift ticket. Or maybe there's a junior group lesson, unlocking your junior potential with our exclusive group lesson package, perfect for families, et cetera, et cetera. Now, the great thing about this is this is also using the rapid retrieval augmented generation model that we showed earlier. And so when we come into our clients and we talk about AI, we talk about business outcomes. So whether it's a recommendation engine, whether it is anything like that, building a whole solution is really important. And that's really the kind of assessments that we can do at the end of the day for our clients. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it back to Jason, who's going to walk us through some final steps, and then we'll get to questions and answers.
Thank you, Andrew. Perfect. So here on this slide, as you can see, we wanted to answer the question, how do we start? Or where could I, enter to get value from my data? What's not on this slide I'm going to start with, which is you don't have to buy something from us to start the conversation. We'd be happy to have, a short workshop or meeting to really talk through maybe some of your challenges, some areas you might suspect could produce value, and we'd be happy to share with you our perspective and really just identify what those kind of quickest return on value might be, so that you could prioritize the way you move forward. Often, the very first step would be an analytics value roadmap coming out of a bit of a workshopping session. That value roadmap is expressly to identify what's going to produce value, understand the complexities that might be behind that, so that you have an eyes wide open understanding of the investment, both people, maybe changes to your data estate, and then also certainly, the cost that you might pay us. But this is truly intended to be as inexpensive as possible, a very quick way for you to not spend much, but get answers to, okay, what's the art of the possible? How can I maybe take this back to a board or a set of key individuals that have to sign off on going down this path, and really help you kind of answer that budgeting and timing question and answer set. The second one here on the list is one that we see clients take up very quickly. Most of our clients don't have a sophisticated business intelligence or kind of advisory and decision-making capability within their environment. At the lower end of the lower middle market, typically there's not even any type of data warehouse, maybe transformation or relation or integration between systems and data may not be present. It may all be done by hand. It may be a very onerous task. For lower than you'd probably expect, we could come in and implement a data warehouse, and even build some business intelligence dashboards and reports that would answer high-value questions that would lead you to improvements in profitability or even revenue. Another area that we see a key interest in, especially at the initial purchase of a portfolio company, is the FP&A reporting. We've helped clients look at this across the entire portfolio at the private equity level, but also at the portfolio company level. How can I simplify, maybe consolidate financial reporting, especially in the context of mergers and acquisitions, add-on transactions? What could be a significant burden on the CFO or controller could be greatly automated and simplified using data and analytics and even some emerging tools in the marketplace. So we'd be also very interested in helping you solve that problem and making it a simple solution. Some additional things that PIP and LumenData do together. The first one here on the left is something we call data as a service. Think of it as a low-cost capability to do anything in the data and analytics space. That could be from developing use cases, even the advanced analytics capabilities, all the way to maintenance and management of the environment, even managing data quality, master data management. There's a number of different things that all fit under that umbrella. And so, often when we are talking to clients about increasing their capability, they don't typically have a data organization within their company, especially when it's a new capability development in-house. So the question becomes, well, do I need to hire a team of people, or could I have you do it for us? And we have a very compelling solution that's much less expensive overall than typically hiring onshore resources. So that's the data as a service. The managed support is really just the management portion of that. But as you can see, we can help manage your data estate once it's built for very low cost. And then lastly, and because this kind of comes after some amount of investment in your data estate, is the advanced analytics use cases, including Gen AI. These, again, are kind of use case by use case. We've given you this range of price at the bottom, but we in the previous slide where we talked about a value roadmap, we would help you understand for any use case what you should expect from an investment standpoint, but also, which I think is even more important, the return. So helping you quantify, what's the business impact going to be, and then measure that return and make sure that you're able to report back to the investment teams, board of directors, private equity ownership, what the impact of these actions were. So with that, we'd be happy, I guess I'll just say, you can certainly reach out to myself, Andrew, or Akash to really talk about how you could maybe have a conversation to figure out where your organization, where your company could best maximize investment for quick return. And we'd be very happy to have that type of conversation with you. With that, I'm going to hand back to Akash, who's going to maybe take us through some question and answer. Akash.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew, Jason. A great background, going from a use case perspective to deep down in the technical weeds. I'm sure a lot of our audience has appreciated some of the detail that we've talked about. One of the things that comes up in my mind and is one of the questions that's come up is how do we cater it specifically for my portfolio company? Or, as we see, there's a variety of industries and variety of sizes of portfolio companies that come in, right? I know Andrew made it very generic around where it can be used and how it can be used. For example, one of the use cases he said is document evaluation, right? And he showed a demo around it. This can very well work for the due diligence at the fund level as you're evaluating companies and going after it. Even for portfolio companies, maintaining the knowledge database is another important thing that comes up. So, Jason, Andrew, a very long question I asked, but how do you make it specific to either the industry or our size of the portfolio company that comes in? And would love to hear your views.
Sure. So the simple answer is that generative AI, and we talked a little bit at the very beginning, is actually focused on what the business value is, right? So what is the thing that you want to automate? What is the thing that you need to get more value out of? Is it reducing the cost of your discovery, all of that sort of thing? The second one is something a little bit more similar. Do you need to increase value for customers? Do you need to make your customer onboarding easier? Do you need to populate more interaction or more personalized environment? And with that, what you can really do is really find the right tool and the right use case. So whether you're $1 million company, or whether you're a $500,000 company, or whether you're a $250,000 company, all of this allows you, when you focus on the use case, allows you to figure out what the overall solution is. The larger your company is, the more data you have, the more users you have, will affect how you scale the solution, and how much different iterations and fine-tuning you need to do on your data and model. But the application is going to be the same for each one of those use cases, as opposed to focusing on what works in my industry. The question should be, what do I hate doing? What do I hate paying for? And can we help automate that? And so focusing on the business value is really the right way to find what will work specifically for your use case.
Jason, any suggestions from your end? Because I had a couple of comments on what Andrew said.
Yeah, no, Andrew made great points. I think, looking at this from a purely business lens, which is more kind of PIP's value add in this partnership, from a purely business lens, like it should very much be, where do I have, and we can help you do this, where do I have cost, or where do I have opportunity for benefit, and really focus in on that. So as you might have already encountered in your portfolio company or in your portfolio, there's a temptation, and it's an understandable temptation to sort of say to yourself, well, I should improve it for this one reason, but maybe we'll just try to improve our data, improve the way we organize or relate data, the way we build reporting, for everyone, right? We don't want to pick favorites. Let's just do it for everyone. And you get this what I'll call scope creep that actually is prohibitive to realize the value that you intended to accomplish from the beginning. So if you said to yourself, oh, we're just going to build some automation for customer interactions in the marketing sphere, you might be tempted to also solve for other sales and marketing related challenges that then creep into operations challenges. Our advice would be to just have a significant discipline around what you're solving for and recognizing the ultimate value produced. And so, one of the things that we really, focus on, and I think do a great job of collectively together, is helping you kind of on a program basis focus on the use cases, and the foundational data that have to be solved for. And then as you actually complete it, we're always thinking about how would that expand? How would that potentially become a broader solution for more than one area of your business, but not solve for all of those areas. So, as some of the offerings that I highlighted earlier in the deck, very much it's never just about, okay, we're solving for one use case. We're considering what the future might hold for your data estate across the board, but we're not solving for it in each project. And so Like we might recommend a certain tool set like Databricks or Snowflake, but we're not going to recommend it if it excludes your ability to do a certain thing that we know is coming in the future. And so we're taking that into account without overdoing it. And, the way we've seen clients be successful, and I know this is a long answer, the way we've seen clients be successful is have quick wins. So, get your win, quantify the benefit, recognize it, and be able to defend it back to the investors. And you're much more likely to get the next tranche of investment for the next ROI that you intend to accomplish.
Yeah. No, great points. And y'all hit a couple of key points. One was what functions are going to be the target, right? We talked very generically of how we can attack every function, but there are three key things, right? Number one being, how do I reduce my cost? So how do we hit operations? How do I increase my revenue? How do I hit sales, right? And then is value creation, right? And I think Gen AI and data and analytics use cases can hit every one of these functions, right? In helping you reduce your cost, increasing your revenue and the value, which is what the fund is going to care about, or at the portfolio level too. The other part to think about is how these technologies can be utilized at the fund level, whether it's for due diligence, whether it's for research, whether it is for doing investment level document creation and sharing them out. So think on those lines as you go along. But one of the things, Jason, you mentioned is how do we get quick wins? What I wanted to check, I'm kind of merging one of the questions that came in and what I'm thinking. Can I do like minimum possible stuff to get the most value? Where do I start? Sometimes is the question, right? How much do I need to do to start getting value? My answer to that is that unless you start, you're really not going to get anything. But is there any thought process, Jason or Andrew, y'all have on, how soon is it 1 week or 10 days worth of work and I can get some value? Or is it like 6 months down and I have to struggle to see the value?
Yeah. So the beauty of this, of using generative AI in this case, is that, the implementation of your MVP, where you'll start getting some value, is, somewhere between a week and 3 weeks, right? You'll have something by the end of the month. Especially if you're not entirely focused on building chatbots and you're using large language models more how we demonstrated over the past 2 days, which is essentially use my information to create something that is a first place for my users to do. When we talk a little bit about these knowledge workers spending 30% of their workday just finding stuff, there's a quick win there by just pointing the processing engine, which is pretty generic over a lot of different industries and a lot of different use cases, to start surfacing that data quickly, right? Saving your users maybe 15% of their day as opposed to 30% of their day would be a significant win. I just said an hour, right? Instead of 3 hours, right? And so one of the things to think about is large language models are incremental in value. They're going to grow more and more valuable the more data you gave it, but you'll start seeing some value at the very beginning of the MVP implementation, as long as you are focused specifically on how you're going to get the data to how you're going to get the outputs to your users. I wrote an article a couple of weeks ago that you can find on LumenData.com about how you should stop building chatbots and start building other tools with large language models. A chatbot is very complicated to implement. You're looking at least a 2-month implementation process there. But something that just summarizes meeting notes, or just something that summarizes an instruction manual for your clients or for your customer service, you can start seeing value in that in just a week or two. And then it will increase in value over time as you put more iterations and steps and capabilities into it.
So what
And
I hear is, yeah, go ahead, Jason, if you have any viewpoint.
well, I was just going to add that often the way we structure projects like this, and Akash maybe was about to go here, is a very agile development model. And so what Andrew just described of 2 to 3 weeks to go from concept to actually having a minimum viable product that you can get value from is by design. And so often while we could do a single use case in a single data set in one project, and do it in 3 or 4 weeks total, often we see on a rotating basis of like every 2 to 3 weeks, there's a sprint, you get value at the end of the sprint, and you kind of keep going. And so and it's not a significant investment per sprint, but you're actually seeing very rapid value creation from that. So often, and we can help you kind of envision what that structure would look like during the roadmap portion of this. But we often, we don't see clients that say, I only have one narrow little data value creation problem that I want to solve for. They often have many options and many things that would improve their environment. So you might find that maybe it's 4 sprints or 6 sprints that after the first one you're impressed because you got something you can use quickly.
No, amazing. Thank you so much for shedding that light, Jason and Andrew. And you can get quick value. That's the short answer to the question we raised about what we need to do to start getting value. You can get quick value in a short amount of time that can be shown to the stakeholders, whether it's in the sales teams, whether it's the due diligence teams. You can show them the value very, very quickly. One question I want to end with is to kind of brings us to a culmination of this discussion, right? How are there any specific metrics that can address what impact you have seen, right? I'll give you one example, and maybe Jason and Andrew, you can shed some light. What we have seen is in the sales and the marketing ecosystem, whether it's B2B or B2C sales, for your portfolio company, we have seen that the number of leads coming in and the number of clients we are able to reach significantly increases when you introduce an omni-channel chatbot, or you introduce a more efficient way of marketing to the clients. We've seen a 20 to 25% increase in the number of leads and customers that we can target, right? Are there any specific metrics that you can share, Andrew or Jason, you've seen how this has created an impact?
I mean, I think one of the metrics that come to mind is something along this line right here. Let me find the slide. Right. To that point, when you're increasing that personalization, right, reducing the acquisition cost by 50% or lifting the revenue by 5 to 15%, is obviously the two big ones, right? Because as you mentioned, especially in B2B and B2C sales, especially in B2C sales, acquisition costs are your true limiting factor, right? How much does it cost to get someone to visit my website, right? How much does it cost to, do I have to go through Facebook, or do I have to go through Google, or do I have to go through Etsy, or whatever it ends up being? And so reducing that cost can be significant in your success as a B2C company. And then just in general, a natural language bot that is able to direct them towards more profitable avenues, or what are more of your win philosophies and stuff like that, can really help increase that revenue as well by increasing that personalization at a fairly low cost relatively.
Awesome. We are right at time, and I appreciate Jason, Andrew shedding all this light. Great discussion. There's a lot more to this. Please reach out to any of us on here and we can discuss what our next webinar is, where we are focusing specifically on Databricks data engineering that's coming up in November. So please feel free to join us for that webinar. Thank you so much for joining us today. Please contact Andrew and Jason for anything you might have, and we are happy to take a discussion and just brainstorm with you. Thank you, everybody. Take care. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.